Well, you know, with schooners and so on taking stuff around the Newfoundland outports, you could probably handle 8 or 10 schooners, you know. Larger vessels you could probably handle 2 or 3. Sir John's had 5 vessels, say between just after the war, during and after the war. He had at least 5 or 10 vessels of his own that were foreign going, you know, that operated from those wharves. And then there would be all the schooners coming in from around the island to get not just bringing in fish or wet salt bulk fish or whatever, but going back to the outports, you know, with groceries and all. And that was a big part of the business during the 1930s and 40s. Then the nature of the trade changed, and the saltfish business in Europe changed because of the currency problems, and it became smaller and smaller in the 50s and 60s, till finally there wasn't anything. NAFL was formed to organize a monopoly to sell the Newfoundland salt cod, but that was still a large part of the business, probably till the 50s, you know. The fish would be brought in, and some of it would be partially cured, you know.
Right.
And you'd finish the cure down in the river. There's 2 wharves down here. There was a hole in the wall that you drove a truck down through the buildings where the offices were. And then when you got through that hole in the wall, you'd go down, it'd still be earth until you got to the wharf, and then you'd have one wharf, as I said, over that side, another one on this side, and in the middle there'd be the boats would tie up and so on. So that was the general panorama. And then there was a large warehouse over on the right-hand side where they made all the fish and kept all the fish, and where it had to be cured and dried, but certainly there'd be 100 men working in there, you know,
right,
and laying the fish out and putting the salt on and whatever they had to do, you know, to dry it and get it ready to the best possible grade. So it was an operation certainly of a couple of 100 people, longshoremen, a lot of longshoremen there. I remember John MacDonald was one of the general foreman who was a St. John's man who was well known to me. And then there was Mr. Spry, Ned Spry, another St. John's, and he was one of the cullers, you know. The culler decides what is the quality of this fish, and depending on what the quality is, the more money you get, you know. So there's always, he was employed by Crosbie, and one of the things the Fishermen's Protective Unit wanted was that the government should appoint the cullers, you know, so to ensure that they were impartial, because they would always say that the cullers are working and paid for by the employer, and so they were going to be very tough, and you wouldn't get the money you should have gotten for your fish. But that was always a big issue. So I don't know how many cullers there would have been, but Ned Spry, I remember, was one of them, you know, and he was a fine St. John's type man.